In this lesson today, we are going to take what we did identifying our 5 W's or critical core information about what an article is about, who it is about, where it takes place, and other important information from yesterday's lesson, and we're going to take that to our next step in writing an objective summary. So what is an objective summary? It shows no bias, emotion, or opinion, and it is a brief account of a text's central points, themes, or main ideas. Think of it as sticking straight to the facts. You are being a reading detective and reporting out strictly facts. Your emotions aren't going to play a part in this. Sometimes when we read, there is so much information in the text that we also have to decide what is most important and worth remembering. What is most interesting is not always what is most important, and there's often unimportant information in what we are reading. Remember, right, sticking to the 5 W's that we learned yesterday really do help you identify what tends to be more important versus what tends to be most interesting. After we determine what is most important, we then have to decide how to put that information into a format that is concise and clear. We want to make sure that we're reporting our facts clearly and accurately to someone. So some key points. We need to focus on the central ideas of the text. And so that would be what is this talking about? Right? So you're going to think about what was the article about? What was the key takeaway? Omit supporting or minor details. Sometimes we get a lot of information and it shows us that there's something important or interesting. However, we need to make sure that you're sticking straight to the facts and avoiding any fluff. Write only enough to convey the central idea. We're not looking for quantity here. We are looking for quality. 4 to 5 sentences maximum is generally what we're going for. Organize the information clearly. Try to keep it where the order makes sense. If you were writing this to try to explain to your parents in a way that they would understand, think of it that way. Write as if you were explaining this to someone that has absolutely no clue what you're talking about. Try to stagger the information in a way that would make sense. Restate the information in your own words. Don't copy anything directly from the text. You are not citing textual evidence like you have practiced in other situations. In this, you're just simply telling what was it about, who was in it, where it took place, when was this going on, why the author chose to write this, etc. Try not to include any opinions or personal thoughts, as this would show bias, and the whole point is for you to remain objective. Interesting is not important, so make sure that you keep that in mind. Your opinions need to stay out of it that way. If you think something's interesting, right, you have to keep in mind that it may not be important, and this will help you avoid any bias. So how do I write an objective summary? We're going to start by naming it. You're going to identify the title of the text and the author. You're going to verb it. Use one of the following summary verbs: shows, describes, explains, discusses, lists, explores, illustrates, teaches, compares, and states. This would be the why. Why did the author write this? What was their purpose? Central ideas. Identify the central ideas of the text. This is the what. What did I just read? What is the important takeaway? 4. Look for key details. Include supportive details that connect to the central idea. You don't want to go overboard here. You're just looking for things that are relevant and make sense, that generally support the overall topic that you're talking about. These come from these supporting details, the other W's that are in the 5 W's, or the how. So an objective summary example. What I'm going to do is ask that you pull up your objective summary graphic organizer. Here, I have the directions. Using the 5W information you identified in yesterday's explanatory writing graphic organizer, you're going to fill in the graphic organizer to create an objective summary for the article. You're going to start by naming the article. So here, I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to put the title. When did we begin standing for the national anthem? So that was the name it part. Simple enough, and now I'm done. So now I have to take a look at the verb it. The verb it would be the why. I need to go back and take a look at my graphic organizer. Yesterday, right, we should have filled this in, right? I'm going to pull from the why. Why did the author write to write the piece? Is it to inform, persuade, entertain, etc.? I'm going to pull from what I put here to help me answer this question. So why? The author, right, wrote the article to inform of the history of the tradition for standing for the national anthem. You don't have to have what I have word for word. You could rephrase that in your own terms if you'd like, but I'm just trying to show you an example of why the author wrote this. This is the verb it part. Now I'm going to look at the central idea. The central idea is essentially what was in the what part. What is the central conflict message or idea? So here, I'm going to erase this. The central idea of, I want to get rid of the italics, so give me 1 second. The central idea of the text was to show the history of standing for the anthem and the tradition of doing so in society, such as sporting events or gatherings. So that was essentially what the article was about. I took that from the what in my yesterday's what, right? And this is what we filled out for number 1, right? This was what was done yesterday. Now I'm going to take a look at some of the other supporting details. I might want to include some of the other W's or the how. So who the article was about. I might want to stop here to include, right, who the article mentioned, right? So it mentioned yesterday that the Major League Baseball, and it also mentioned characters like Russell O'Brien were key figures in starting the tradition of standing for the anthem in sports and removing caps while the song played. What I'm going to do is take a look at what I put on my explanatory graphic organizer from yesterday, and I'm going to add some of those key details in here. So I'm looking for 3 to 5. Do I have to have 5? No, I could have 3. That's completely acceptable. If I want to add some more that I noted that could be important, I will then add those in here. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to now write my completed objective summary down here. So I would get rid of this information. And that way I have some room to start writing my objective summary. I'm going to put all of the information that I put from my graphic organizer here in the correct order. And I'm going to start with name it. So in the article, let me scooch this out of the way. In the article titled, "When Did We Begin Standing for the National Anthem?" the author writes to inform of the history of the tradition behind standing for the national anthem. The central idea of the text was to show the history behind standing for the anthem in society, such as sporting events or gatherings. So what I'm going to do here is continue to add my supporting details, and that is how you will write a completed objective summary. Make sure